I'm kind of doing, thank you. Kind of doing okay. Whoops. Hold on a second. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, Andy, were you raising your hand? No. Okay. All right. Okay. So page 125, it starts out the Ve'ela Toldot Yitzchak, and these are the offspring of Isaac and the son of Abraham. Abraham begot Isaac. So it starts off, and we're going to have the very famous story about Rivka, being pregnant, and she's having difficulty in her pregnancy. She's feeling a pulling inside of her, and she's more than just uncomfortable pregnancy-wise. She figures that this is something that she needs to find out what's going on. She doesn't go to see her OB. She goes to seek the advice of spiritual leaders of like what is going on. And verse 23, verse 22, the children agitated within her, and she said, "If so, why am I thus? Like, what does this mean?" And she went to inquire of Hashem. So she went to inquire for a spiritual inquiry to the descendants of Noach called Shem and Ever. The Shem is one of Noach's sons, and Ever was Shem's son. And Hashem said to her through them, "Two nations are in your womb, two regimes from your inside shall be separated. The might shall pass from one regime to the other, and the elder shall serve the younger." Now, the elder shall serve the younger. We know the elder is going to be Esau, and the younger is going to be Jacob. So I always just read it as the elder will serve the younger, until Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch points out that if you look at the Hebrew, it doesn't say the elder shall serve the younger. So it's something very simple. So take a look at the Hebrew of what it actually says. In the Hebrew, if you're in the stone Chumash, it's in the last line. I don't know where it is in a Tanakh, but it's the end of that, the end of the verse, the very end of whatever you would read at that verse. And it says, V'rav ya'avod Sa'ir. Okay, Sa'ir does mean younger, but Rav does not mean older. What does Rav mean? Rav means a lot. It means powerful. It means many. Now, we have another example of when there is a reference to an older and a younger child, and we can take a look in the Torah and see where that is. So specifically, earlier in the Torah, early in Bereshit, we see Lot's daughters, the ones who sleep with him and get pregnant. So they have the older daughter and the younger daughter both sleep with him. And we're not going into that story, but we're just going to go into the language that describes the older one and the younger one. So if you want to just turn back for a moment to page 91 in the stone, or chapter 19, verse 31 in the Tanakh of Bereshit. And it says very straightforwardly, the older one said to the younger. Okay, the older one said to the younger. And what does it say in the Hebrew? Vatomer ha-bechira. So the Bechor is the older one, the firstborn. The feminine is Bechira, that's the feminine of Bechor. Al Hatzeira, to the younger one. That's how you would say older and younger. The Bechor and the Tzair. The older one and the younger one. Now going back to what we have, V'rav Ya'avod Tzair, Rav does not mean older. Rav means has to do with power. It has someone who's like Rav Me'od, when Pharaoh is later describing the Jewish people's power and that they've become too great in Egypt. And so he wants to then start to enslave them. That's the word that they use, is Rav. It means mighty and powerful. So this isn't about the age. I mean, it happens that it will be the older elder serving the younger, but it's talking about power. The one that is more, that has the power, that has the might, that has the wealth, that has the material, all of that, that's the one who will serve the younger one, who is going to be Jacob. And that's the description of Esau. It's not about the birth order of younger and older. It's about the power. So here we see this is what the ultimate plan is going to be, is the power and the might will serve the younger one, meaning Jacob. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean like, yes, master. It means it will be in service of, it will be put toward that which the younger one stands for. And the younger one standing for Torah, God, spirituality, morality, ethics, and all power will be subservient to that because it will provide the framework. Otherwise, if it's left undisconnected, it always will become cruel, violent, and destructive, and ultimately self-destructive. So that's what Rebecca is being told. Those are the two nations, and the reason they're fighting you is not just your average kicking of twins, which I can't even imagine. Kicking of one was enough, but the kicking of twins inside, saying, no, there is such a polar opposites inside of you. So that's why it is causing this strife inside of you. That's what you're feeling, is that these are opposites. But in the end, there will be a unity, and the one will serve the other and will be put in service of that. So that is even just the opening. Why do you think it's translated as older? I think because it becomes too hard to translate. You end up with like a whole sentence that says the more powerful one, with it becomes awkward. And anytime you have a translation, you have to kind of decide how are you going to do it. And in the end, it is the older child. It is Esau who will serve Yaakov, but it's not really that's not really the statement being made. So then you're very grateful for someone like Rav Hirsch, who points out a very simple, this is not an abstract Hebrew idea. This is a straight up, look at the word and see what it means. But we're so used to the story. It's like, when they talk about editing your own work or editing work that you're very familiar with, you can't see the mistakes because you're so familiar with it. Your mind just fills in the gaps. It can't see it. So we read these things and we can't see it. So I thought that was very interesting, and it puts the whole relationship in a very different context and takes us in a different direction about what the ultimate destiny is going to be of these two brothers and of these two forces and powers in the world. Okay, so the next piece we want to take a look at is that when we know the story about Jacob buys the birthright from Esau. And let's take a look at that here. And this is at the bottom of page 127. We're going to kind of just go through and read some things where we're going to gain new insights into what they mean and help us understand what's going on today and how this shift in power and the world of that this isn't going to be an easy task of this all coming together. It's a long, hard task to get the world balanced and centered the way it should be. And the Jewish people are the ones leading the way. And we've been, thank God, preserved and schlepped through history in order for this to happen. So we are the ones representing the Tzair, the younger one. If you take a look at the bottom, this is when the lads grew up. Said Esau became, this is verse 27 of chapter 25, page 127. Sorry, it's confusing. It's also verse 27. The lads grew up, and Esau became one who knows hunting, a man of the field, but Jacob was a wholesome man abiding in tents. Now, we're going to go down and look at verse 29, just skip a little bit. It says, Jacob simmered a stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was exhausted. The commentary said he was busy committing the 3 cardinal sins that day of murder, idolatry, and sexual immorality. That's why he was exhausted. Not that he was working and plowing the back 40. It was because he was sinning. And he says to him in like such a coarse way, Esau said to Jacob, pour into me now some of that very red stuff where I'm exhausted. Just like the crudest way, just like pour that down my throat. You can imagine, I just picturing like some like an old redneck in a bar is like, just pour that stuff down my throat. I'm exhausted. just like so crude. What was going on that day? This is the stew that Jacob was making was because Abraham had passed away, and this was the meal, the consolation meal for sitting Shiva for the passage of his grandfather. Now, this is what he wanted. So first of all, you have to say, like, this is what you were doing the day your grandfather passed away. You were out carousing around, and then you come home to a Shiva house, and you're take that Shiva food and pour it down my throat. Like, what kind of a person even are you? So then Jacob says, sell is this day your birthright to me. And Esau said, look, I'm going to die. So what use to me is a birthright? Continue on. Jacob said, swear to me as this day. He swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew. Lentils specifically are served to mourners. And he ate and drank, got up and left. Thus Esau spurned the birthright. Not even so much as a thank you, Birkat Hamazon, nothing. Just like, hate to eat and run, but I'm out of here. And that was it. So it's like the whole scenario is a test of where Esau is coming from, of how unfit he is for spiritual leadership, which is what the birthright was for. It wasn't that he was getting more money. It's not that he was getting more cows or sheep. It was a spiritual birthright. And Jacob was like, he can't do this job. He can't do it. And so I'm going to buy it from him. And he was fully willing to relinquish it, even though later he will tell Isaac, Jacob took the birthright from me. He did not take it. He sold it. And it says even more so, he spurned it. Okay, to spurn something is like, I don't want this. It means nothing to me. This was after he ate. So even if you wanted to make an argument to say, well, he was so hungry, he couldn't really think about a birthright. You could say he had second thoughts after he had his bread and his lentil soup. Like, on second thought, Jacob, I really value that birthright. And you know what? You took advantage of me, and that sale is not final. And the truth is, luckily, he would have a point. Okay, if you do something and there's coercion in a sale, that may not be legal. But he was like, no, he spurned it after he was full. So part of the other question is for Esau is the food that Jacob had prepared was spiritual food. It wasn't just, take some of the cookies in the cookie jar. This was spiritual food. And when we prepare food that has a certain intentionality behind it, it is meant to influence us. This is like why on Shabbos food that people say, Shabbos food has a special taste, like cholent. Any other day of the week, it tastes like beef stew. But on Shabbos, it's like heavenly. And people who have the most refined taste are like, where's the cholent? Like, are you kidding me? It's like beef stew. What's the big deal here? It's like, no, but it tastes like Shabbos because the intention behind it changes how it is experienced. So even with that food that Esau approaches it in the wrong way, the impact of the food has no impact on him whatsoever. He gets up, he spurns the whole thing, and the whole thing is a waste. So this is who Esau is, and Jacob is basically trying to rescue that, rescue the birthright to be the spiritual leader. Okay, we're going to find food presented again when Isaac later wants to bless Esau. So let's take a look at this for a moment and talk about that. Page 135. Chapter 27, verse 1. And it came to pass when Isaac had become old and his eyes dimmed from seeing, that he summoned Esau, his older son, and said to him, my son. And he said to him, here I am. And he said, see now I have aged, I know not the day of my death. Now sharpen, if you please, your gear, your sword and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me. Then make me delicacies such as I love, and bring it to me, and I will eat, so that my soul may bless you before I die. This is a really weird request. First of all, if you remember, what was Jacob's profession? What was he? He was a shepherd. He had hundreds and hundreds of flock. Now, if you have sheep and goats and those things in your backyard, basically, do you any need to go out to hunt food? This isn't like, I'm starving, there's nothing in the refrigerator. Can you go out and hunt some game for me? It's like, he didn't need food to be hunted. It could have been, go get a little goat and, shecht it, and we'll have lamb stew. And then I'll give you a bracha. But he specifically tells Esau to go out and hunt. Why does he tell him to do that? And he asks him, then make me delicacies such as I love and bring it to me and I will eat so that my soul may bless you before I die. So the question we have to ask is, what kind of food does Isaac love? What would be food that Isaac would love? Isaac wants holy food. Remember, he came off the binding of Isaac and he is at a very high spiritual level. The kind of food he likes is food that is infused with spiritual meaning and kavana. Why does he ask Esau to do this? Is that he knows that Esau is a hunter, and he knows that is a like kind of a bloody, cruel thing to be involved with. And Esau never went hunting to bring home food. Why did Esau go hunting? Sport. He loved to trap the animal. He loved the blood. He loved the guts of it. He loved the glory of coming home with the trophy. Yitzchak, Isaac, his father's like, if you could channel the idea that this is food, the food that I like is food that is prepared with kavana, that has an intention. If you could prepare food like that and direct your desire for hunting to be beneficial for another person, if it could be in fact food and not sport, then you have a way to be able to transform a physical activity into a spiritual achievement. And that's what Yitzchak was trying to get from Esau, is to get him to a place where he used his physicality in the service of spiritual connection. And then Isaac can say, and then my soul can bless you, because then I will know that you are connected, and that's what he was hoping to achieve. And then he could, in fact, bless him. Otherwise, he was going to be running wild. Even though Isaac was able to see the immense potential that Esau had. He was a person of power. He was a person of accomplishment. He could go out into the world, and it's called the Yadayim Shel Esav, the hands of Esau. Jacob was the voice and Esau was the hands. Now, in the world, what do you really need? You need both. You need hands and a voice. One without the other is an incomplete person, is an incomplete people. What Isaac desperately wanted was for it to all come together so that he could really, truly be a leader. This is going to continue then, and then we're going to have the famous, and this was fabulous, learned this from Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, is what do we know that happens is Rebecca does not want Esau to receive the blessing because she knows that he's not up to it. She knows a swindler when she sees one because she was raised with them. Isaac grew up in Abraham's house. He's been around purity his whole life. He doesn't know from swindlers. He doesn't know from cheaters. He doesn't know from deceivers. He doesn't know from people who betray, because that's not who he grew up with. He was an innocent. It's an ish tam. Jacob was an ish tam. Isaac was also, because he had reached such a high level. So what happens is Rebecca does the strangest thing, which she should have known wasn't going to be effective, right? So we all grew up hearing this story. What does she do? Is Rebecca hears about this and go down to verse 6. But Rebecca had said to Jacob, her son, saying, behold, I heard your father speaking to your brother Esau, saying, bring me some game and make me delicacies to eat, and I will bless you in the presence of Hashem before my death. So now my son, heed my voice to which I command you. Go now to the flock, which is where the food comes from, not from the hunting, and fetch me from there 2 choice young kids of the goats, and I'll make the delicacies for your father as he loves. Then bring it to your father, and he shall eat, so that he may bless you before his death. But Jacob says to Rebekah's mother, but my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I'm smooth-skinned. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall be as a mocker in his eyes. I will thus bring upon myself a curse rather than a blessing. But his mother said to him, your curse will be on me, my son. Only heed my voice and go fetch them for me. So he goes. Rebecca sends him in with the garments of Esau and with fur It's the most pathetic costume ever, right? With fur strapped onto his arms so that he feels like Esau, who was hairy. Now, did Rebecca really expect that this was going to fool Isaac? Says, what was she doing? What was she doing? So this is what Rav Hirsch shares and says, she wasn't trying, she didn't think that this was going to be a successful ploy. First of all, as soon as Esau comes home, the gig is up. So then what are you going to do? What was she trying to accomplish? This is what she was really trying to accomplish was to show Isaac how easily he could be fooled, and then for him to realize how easily he had been fooled all of Esau's life. Because when you're trying to tell somebody that somebody else is deceiving you, have you ever tried to tell somebody that the way they perceive things is incorrect and that there's truth out there that they're just not seeing? How do you get someone to see the truth? So they have to experience it themselves. You could talk until you're blue in the face. Can you imagine what the conversation might have been? Rebecca goes to Isaac and says, I have to tell you, our son Esau he is not good. He is not going to follow the path. I can tell you. Isaac would say, you know what? You're just kind of negative. You grew up in Laban's house, and so you're just not used to these things. And so you just think poorly about other people. And I've heard him talk. He talks the talk. I think he's good. It's like it wouldn't have even gone anywhere. Just think about today, trying to tell anybody anything. Until someone experiences something for themselves, they are not going to believe it. So what Rivka really does is she sets up a ruse that is so minimalistic, really minimal. Like just put some fur on is like, he has like a little bit like, oh no, it's the hands of Esau, but the voice of Jacob. But okay, well, let me smell you. Okay, you smell like the right person, must be you. It's like, do you see how easily you were fooled? And what is, in fact, Isaac's reaction when he finds out how he was deceived? Let's take a look at that, because when he has that experience, let's see what happens. Page 139, chapter 27, verse 32. Esau, of course, comes back from his forays into the hunting. Of course, he was going to be coming back. And it was then when Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had scarcely left from the presence of Isaac, his father, that Esau, his brother, came back from his hunt. He too made delicacies and brought them to his father. He said to his father, let my father rise and eat of his son's game so that your soul will bless me. And Isaac, his father, said to him, who are you? And he said, I'm your firstborn son, Esau. Then Isaac trembled in very great perplexity and said, who, where's the one that hunted game and brought it to me? And I partook of all of that you had not come yet, and I blessed him. Indeed, he shall remain blessed. It says, why did he tremble? He trembled out of seeing how easily and completely he had been fooled and that he had been betrayed. There is an article on the aish.com about the betrayal of the feminist movement of the Jewish women. It is so pathetic. Like, I thought you were our allies. I'm a feminist. I've been supporting you. And now you have nothing to say about Jewish women who were raped, their stomachs split open and fetuses taken out of them, gang raped, decapitated. You have nothing to say, nothing to say, nothing to say. Ms. Mag, all of these, like, just falling is like, it is a huge betrayal. It's like, wait a minute. I thought you were righteous. I thought you were on a path that I agreed with. Yes, it's an Aish article, aish.com, you'll see it. It's like, why is the women's movement silent or something like that about, or supporting Hamas? It is mind-boggling. And I have talked to women who are literally emotionally trembling with like, how can that be? How was I so fooled to think that there was this alignment? And there is not. There is not. And it's not just one, it's many. I'm not saying every woman, I'm saying it is massive, massive, massive betrayal. As on other organizations and movements and everything, all the isms have like capsized on us. So this leaves us trembling because there's been a deception. And like, what do you do with that? It's like you pull yourself together and you turn and you bless that which should be blessed. And Isaac blesses Jacob. And at the end, he reaffirms and he says, and you shall remain blessed. Because again, halachically, just like the sale of the birthright, had it been deceptive, Isaac could have taken it back. He could have said, you, Jacob, tricked me, and so I rescind the blessing and I'm giving it to your brother. He does not say that. He said, he shall remain blessed. He's the one, and now I see, and it blows away his whole paradigm of what he was expecting Esau to be, not to be. In the future, God willing, it will be that, but it wasn't then. And Jacob needed to be the one who received the blessing and would now function. Moving forward, he would now function as a combination of both Jacob and Esau. He takes on both roles because Esau was not prepared to take on his role. His role was to bring power, strength, physical, material world under the tent of a spiritual framework. He was not willing to do that. He despised it, disparaged it, and threw it away. Jacob takes it on and takes both, which is why he ends up with two wives. He ends up with two names. He has a complete double identity. His feet on the ground, his head in the heavens. He is both in the tent and in the field. He is both places. It's what like the really interesting. I listened to a shir last Erev Shabbos that were two, I don't know if they were rabbis, scholars, Jewish guys speaking in Hebrew, sitting in Gaza on the beach in chairs, having a Devar Torah about the hands of Esau and the voice of Jacob, saying that Israel, we are Israel, the Jewish people and the land of Israel, where we need to be both the soldiers and the scholars. We are the ones who are both outside and inside together. And that is our success. And when the outside rejects the inside or the inside rejects the outside, it will always fail. It has to be together. So going back to how we started with the blessing that the Haredi woman wanted from the secular soldier's wife, to say, I want you to bless me. You are blessing me. I am blessing you. We're in this together. That's what it's supposed to be. So Israel has taken on both roles of the hands of Esau and the power and the might and the physicality, and we're also the ones singing. If you've seen any of the videos of the soldiers singing, they're singing the Shema, they are singing Am Yisrael Chai, they're dancing, so their voices are rising in prayer, they're saying Tehillim and Psalms, and then they have on their guns and their battle gear, and they go in and do what they have to do. This is Israel. This is Jacob. This is the combined. I had to buy the Bechor because you weren't willing to do it. So now I have both roles. And that's who the Jewish people have become, which is what it needs to be at this point until the rest of the world takes their rightful place. And then maybe things will shift into something else. So furthermore, let's take a look, in addition to that, that after this all, before this all happened, there was a series of incidents with Isaac having a similar situation to Abraham and Sarah, where he says that Rebecca is his sister because there's a famine. There's a famine in the land. Chapter 26, verse 1, which is page 129 in the Chumash. There was a famine in the land, aside from the first famine that was in the days of Abraham, and Isaac went to Avimelech, the king of the Pelishtim, to Gerar. Where is that? Gaza. Okay, it's right outside Gaza. That's where Gerar is. Hashem appeared to him and said, don't descend to Egypt, dwell in the land that I shall indicate to you. So he stayed there in Gerar. Verse 6, so Isaac settled in Gerar. Who was there? The Pelishtim. Pelishtim, Philistines. So that is, as we know, that's where the word Palestine comes from. This was the Judea, which was always what this Eretz Israel was called. Yehuda v'Shomron, Judea and Samaria.
Where is that? What are you on? Chapter what?
Chapter 26.
26.
Yes, page 129 of the Chumash.
No, I got 26, verse what?
Verse 1.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so this was where the Philistines, the Romans changed Judea after they defeated it. They changed it to Palestine as an insult to the Jewish people, knowing that the Pelishtim, the Philistines, had been the long-term enemies of the Jewish people. If you remember David and Goliath, Goliath was a Philistine. Okay, so this was a long-term, it's like naming your country after the name of your arch enemy. It was a psychological tool to deflate the Jewish people's expectations and desires that there would ever be anything, that they would have anything, like we're going to wipe you away, you're not coming back, and we're naming the whole area after your enemies. Those are the Pelishtim, that is Palestine. Now, just as a little interesting thing, so there's never been a Palestinian people. Do you know who's in charge of the Temple Mount? Who's in charge of that area up there? Who has jurisdiction over it? I see Carol said it.
Jordan.
Jordan, okay? The countries are Jordan, Syria, and Egypt, and Lebanon. Those are the countries. There's never a Palestinian people. I came across something today. I posted it on my Am Yisrael Chai, went through an Arab Palestinian person saying, this is all fake. This has nothing to do with anything. This is for political purposes because Jordan has a defined border. And so I, as a Jordanian, cannot have any claim on Haifa. But if I say there's a Palestinian people, then I can say Haifa belongs to us, Jerusalem belongs to us, the whole thing belongs to us. It doesn't exist. There is no evidence of anything. So you'll watch the videos, read anything. It just makes me so crazy. But here's something just linguistically that's kind of funny. There's no P sound in Arabic. Arabs can't even say Palestinian, just for the record. They don't have a P. So what do they say? B. They say Palestinian. Or F, Palestinian. So we figure they just have an accent, so we don't know. They can't even say the word. And that's their country. Yeah. So this is like the police team. This was done to the Jews to make us miserable, to give this name. So this is where Isaac was. And the way this reads says, this is the first instance in the Torah where we're going to start seeing how the Jews have been treated throughout history. And this is like reading today's newspaper. So there's a famine in the land. Isaac is told to go down there, and God reaffirms verse 4 of chapter 26. I'll increase your offspring like the stars of the heavens, give you to your offspring all these lands, and all the nations of the earth shall bless themselves by your offspring, because Abraham obeyed my voice, observed my safeguards, my commandments, my decrees, and my Torahs. Just as an aside, this verse here is why we say that the patriarchs and matriarchs observed the Torah, because it says right here, they observe my safeguards, my commandments, my decrees, and my Torahs. And then it says Torah is plural, meaning both the oral and the written law. So that's the source for that understanding that they observed it, but even before it was given in writing. So Isaac settled in Gerar. And then the men asked about his wife, and she said she's my sister, because he was afraid lest the men of the place kill me because of Rebekah, for she's fair to look upon. So they were there for a long time, and then Isaac and Rebekah are kind of fooling around, and the people are being rude and nosy, and they see them together, and they're like, hey, you said she's my sister. And on next page, Isaac said to them, because I said I would be killed because of her. So Avimelech, the king, gets very upset, and then he says, one of the people has nearly lain with your wife. Now, first of all, like, that's Isaac's fault? Like, how dare you? You almost made us look really bad. Like, we were going to like abduct your wife and sleep with her, and you told us it was your sister. Like, and even if it was your sister, since when do you just like take a woman and grab her and go do what you want to do? So, but it's like this false righteousness, when in fact they had done something really cruel to Rivka. So it's just so crazy. But they did make a thing, whoever molests this man or his wife will die. So Isaac sowed in the land, and that year he reaped 100-fold. That's actually the Mea Sha'arim. Thus had Hashem blessed him. The man became great and kept becoming greater until he was very great. He acquired flocks and herds and many enterprises. And what, of course, happened? Very next phrase. And the Philistines envied him, even though he brought success to them as well. Just like Jacob later brings success to his father-in-law, Laban. Because wherever the Jewish people go, they prosper and they bring prosperity to everyone. That is the nature of the blessing. So he brought prosperity to the whole area, which they don't recognize until they tell him to leave, and then they see all of their economic windfall disappear. So all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham, his father, the Philistines stopped them up and filled them with earth. Now, you live in the desert and you dig a well. Talk about cut off your nose to spite your face. You're going to fill the wells literally with earth? I mean, how crazy do you have to be? You can't have it, and so nobody will have it, and I'm going to fill it with dirt. So now all this is understood on the practical, like the really, really, really with wells, but also that it was an attempt to destroy what Abraham had accomplished as far as his spreading awareness of God. It's like, okay, now that he's gone, now we can be done with that. And now we have Isaac, and we don't have to worry about him. We're just going to block it all up and keep it because the water, of course, is understood also to be the waters of Torah. The Mayim Chaim, the living waters, will stop it up and will fill it up. And Avimelech said to Isaac, go away from us, for you have become much mightier than we. Like he was a threat. He wasn't doing anything. Sound familiar? So Isaac departed from there and encamped in the valley of Gerar and dwelled there. And Isaac dug anew the wells of water, which they had dug in the days of Abraham. And the Philistines had stopped up after Abraham's death, and he called them by the same names that his father had called them. So he was continuing the legacy of Abraham. So now we have this whole thing. This is a lot of column inches being devoted to these wells, which means that it has a symbolism just on many levels. Again, about the relationship between Isaac and his surrounding neighbors. Again, who he was only benefiting, and all he could see was to be jealous and want him to go away. Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found there a well of fresh water. The herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, the water's ours. So he digs a new well, and they say, okay, the well is yours, and you dug it, but the water is ours. And they were saying, because it's really from our water, and you're just tapping into our water. It's like, no, it's a fresh spring, which means it is fed from its own source of water. It's mine. So he called the name of that well Esek, because they involved themselves with them, like of harassing him. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over that one also. So he called its name Sitnah, which is also about quarreling. He relocated. And so what is happening in each case? Isaac is appeasing. And each time he was like, okay, fine, I'll go someplace else. Okay, fine, I'll go someplace else. Okay, fine, I'll go someplace else. And everywhere he goes, they're harassing him until he gets to the third one. Verse 22, he relocated from there and dug another well. They did not quarrel over it, so he called its name Rehovot and said, for now Hashem has granted us ample space and we can be fruitful in the land. These three wells are considered references also to the temples. The first temple, which was destroyed, the second temple, which was destroyed, and the third temple, God willing. Thank you. Sinat from hatred. Yes, like sinat chinam, of the hatred. So it's hatred and jealousy from the names of the wells. So otherwise, you don't really need to name a well. It's like, people who name their car. Like I remember when we bought a Volvo, like we bought it from somebody, and the car, the people who owned it before, like called it something. I forget its name. I don't know. It's not like Jessica or something, but like they had a name for their car. But you don't usually name your well. But he named it because this was symbolic of what the life of the Jewish people was going to be. Otherwise, why do we need to know this? In Isaac's long life, why do I need to know that there was like these property disputes? Except that it's telling us what is going to be the situation for the Jewish people, which is that we're going to be in lands and that we're going to be prosperous. People are going to be jealous, and it doesn't matter if we benefit them. They're going to want us to leave. And then they'll be mad if we leave, because then it's like the Russian Jews. You are an enemy of the state, but we won't let you leave because you have state secrets. It was like the ultimate bizarre accusation. We hate you, but you can't go. It's like, okay, like either don't hate me, I'm contributing, or let me go if you don't like me. Like, no, we hate you and you can't go. So this twisted approach starts with Isaac to tell us like, this is how it's going to be. But the hope is the third well is Rehovot, from the word Rachav, which means expansive. And like this one represents the third temple, that when that gets established, no one's going to be arguing anymore, and it will be in place. And then we can be fruitful in the land. And Hashem then comes and reminds Isaac, verse 24, appeared to him that night, I'm the God of your father Abraham, fear not, I am with you. I will bless you and increase your offspring because of Abraham, my servant. And he pitches his tent there, and his servants dug a well. Now we get something really crazy, which again happens all the time. Verse 26, Avimelech went to him from Gerar with a group of his friends, and Phicol, the general of his legion. And Isaac says to him, like this really non-diplomatic language, why have you come to me? You hate me and drove me away from you. It's like, what are you doing here? You were trying to get rid of me. Like, why are you showing up on my doorstep now? It's like, oh, well, and they said, we have indeed seen that Hashem has been with you. So why did they see that? Because as soon as Isaac went away, their crops all dried up. It's like, oh, funny thing, you were actually very lucky for us. And now we realize that we kind of made a mistake there, but they're still going to take an aggressive approach. We have indeed seen that Hashem has been with you. So we said, let the oath be between ourselves now, be between us and you, and let us make a covenant with you. So now we're going to make a peace treaty with you. We're going to have a peace conference. And then they say, what they do, they threaten Isaac. And they say, if you do evil with us, ... like we are going to destroy. He's like, who's doing any evil? I was just sitting here minding my business with my flocks and my well. Just as we have not molested you, and just as we have done with you only good, and sent you away in peace. They said, leave us, you're too mighty. That's not called sending away with peace. And now you, and how do they end? Oh, blessed of Hashem. Oh, blessed of Hashem. That's how they're referring to Isaac. So they made this peace treaty. They ate and they drank and they went in the morning and they carried on. And it was on the next day that Isaac's servants came and told him about the well they had dug. And they said, we have found water. They named it Shiva. Therefore, the name of the city is called Beersheba, until this very day. This whole long account is like, why do we know more about this than we know about Jacob and Esau and everything that happened with them? It's like, why do we have to know all this? It's like, because Jewish people, this is going to be a pattern that's going to exist, but it won't be forever. It's going to be like this up and down. It's like the Ottoman Empire. Invite the Jews in. Every European country invited the Jewish people to come in for economic prosperity. And then when they became too prosperous, then they expelled us and took our money. And it has been repeated in every single country. So instead of being shocked, like, I can't believe they're doing this. Like, oh yeah, I read this parsha already. This parsha is told out. We already had that. We're going to have it again in Shemot. We're going to have it with the Egyptians. Same thing. Came down, welcomed in, Joseph's family. Thank you. You saved us. You saved us. You saved us. Settle anywhere, become wealthy, become prosperous, bring prosperity, end the famine. It's like, oh, you Jews, too many, too powerful. You're probably going to turn on us. And so we're going to oppress you. It's like, this is the pattern. So we need to be able to say, we're not reading the Torah like, oh, this is so interesting. This is like what happened to our people in the past. It's like, no, this is what is happening. We are in the parsha, literally. And it reads like the news, not just of today, but of all the days of the past. And what do we hold on to? We hold on to Rehovot. We hold on to, like, we talk about the building, however you understand what that's going to be, the building of the Beit HaMikdash, of the third temple. That's when it's going to be. There won't be the arguing. There won't be the jealousy. It'll be seen for the blessing that it is. It's like, how is the world turning its back on the incredible blessing the Jewish people have brought to them in every single country? The first country that responds to any natural disaster, even the countries that hate Israel and say, well, you can come, but we don't want anything that says Israel on it. And Israel's like, okay, we'll white it out or whatever. We won't say it's us. I'm sorry, if it was me, I'd be like, well, then you can just take care of it yourself. So that's me. I'm not at such a high level. But Israel's like, oh no, we're going to help you. Even if you hate us, we're going to help you. So this perspective to be able to hang on to realize that this is what we are in, is that the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, they brought blessing to everyone in every place that they were. And when they left Egypt, they brought blessing there. And when the Jews went to Babylonia, they brought blessing there. When the Jews went to Germany, they brought blessing there. To Spain, they brought blessing there. To America, blessing there. So we are a blessing to people. And when they're ready to see it, then we will have an expansiveness. We will have Rehovot. We will have Rachav. And then we will be able to be in this land, and they will want us to be here as fast as anything. We don't know when that time is going to be. Hopefully it's going to be really soon. Hopefully it's going to be really soon. I wanted to give you an update. Okay, just before then, okay, so it's just before 9, about it will come about. I wanted to give you an update on the vessels from the temple that are in Italy. So for centuries, the Vatican denied that they had them. Now they have said they neither confirm nor deny. So
that always means we've got them.
We've got them, exactly right. So they have a problem, which is that I know many Christians are our friends these days, but they still have a theological problem, which is replacement theology, which is that they are the new, that's why it's called the New Testament. They are the new chosen people, and Israel really is supposed to belong to them. So they kind of have a little bit of a hard time with the fact that we have Israel, and having the temple things returned to us doesn't sit so well with the replacement theology, because that is just too close to recognizing that the Jewish people were not going anywhere, and that we have been here this whole time and we didn't disappear or take on Jesus or do any of these other things that they were so much hoping for. So they have a problem. The other problem they have is that because the Palestinians, and including the United Nations, has now said that Israel has no connection to Jerusalem, it's a question about who would take possession of the things. And it'd be very possible that there would be then a fight of Israel or the Jews, or if it would be the Palestinians, because they say that it was really always Palestinian and it was really Muslim. So don't ask me how that wild argument is made, but that's considered a real political problem. So I was not alone in reaching out to find out about this. That seems like many, many people wrote, or like, what's going on? What's happening? Where is this going to go? So the person who is in charge in Italy with the liaison with the government and with the Vatican, wrote and said, like, this is like what's happening. This is the situation. It's possible that they would take out and put on display in Italy artifacts, but kind of like how, God forbid, like, how the Germans were going to have a museum of the extinct race, and they were collected Torah scrolls and things from synagogues, because they would say, well, here are these people who, thank God, are not here anymore, and here's all their things. So luckily that didn't happen, and we have the things now. But that Italy might showcase them as historical things from Italian heritage, not to be returned to us. So, and just some of the things. So to be determined, but at least I mean, when I just thought, this is so, I neither confirm nor deny that we have them. I'm like, you have them. I knew you had them all the time. We all knew you had them. So they have them. But they have some theological issues. They have political issues. There's also political issues between the government of Italy and the Vatican, because the Vatican is its own, has a diplomatic immunity. It's its own standalone thing that Italy can't control the Vatican. So even though Rome is in Italy and the Vatican's in Italy, there's political things there too. So in other words, I won't say we have time to wait, because anything can happen in just a moment. Who knows what can happen in just a split second, but it's likely not to be tomorrow. But I just thought that was interesting that I wasn't, because I thought, am I the only person who's like paying attention to this? That there were a lot of people who were like, what is happening with this? Enough people that they followed up with more detailed information. So that's the story. So our menorah isn't quite ready for prime time. Maybe it'll be ready for Hanukkah. And if the world knew, I shouldn't say if they knew, because they do know. They really do deeply know. If they were ready to know how much bracha, how much light, how much goodness and joy and happiness would come to them with our temple rebuilt as a place for all humanity to come and recognize the infinite creator of the universe and to see the light of the menorah, they would be forcing us to build it. And they would give us these things. They say, you go and go do this, because we're waiting for you. But we're not quite ready yet. So God willing, we're now in the month of Kislev, Baruch Hashem. I took pictures at the grocery store. The grocery store is so funny here. You come in, I've told you before, and whatever holiday it is, that's like, everything is out for that. So you walk in and there's like all these menorahs stacked up, oil, and then sufganiyot. And so I'm like, sufganiyot on the 1st of Kislev, we've got 25 days until we start eating, sufganiyot. Otherwise you're gonna be like rolling out of your house. But but it's true that the light of Hanukkah starts with Rosh Chodesh Kislev. We are already in that light. And so God willing, Hashem should provide the miracle for us, open miracle for us, for everyone to see. I think even having the Jewish people in Washington, D.C. this week, as I wrote, there's a special bracha that you say if there are 600,000 Jews together. So there were 290,000, from what I understand, in Washington, D.C., and I'm not sure how many 100,000 who were watching on their devices. So I don't know, maybe we came close to the 600,000, and there's not a bracha for that I know of, but it is a bracha. It is a bracha to have that many people and feel so connected with one another. And of course, even like looking in the crowds, I'm like, I'm waiting to see someone I know, which I didn't see anybody I knew, but I was hoping I'd see somebody I knew. That it was just an incredible feeling of connection and spiritual elevation for everybody, and that can only bring us closer. So we don't know what the time frame is, but it certainly brings us closer in a way that.
And it was a beautiful day. There wasn't a cloud in the sky.
Gorgeous day. And the only people I felt so horrible for, which I'm sure you heard about, the 300 people who got stuck because there was the walk so anti-Semitic. Can you imagine if there was a Black Lives Matter event and there were white people who refused to bus people to an event? There would have been riots there would have been riots. And the Jews are like, they're like, okay, we'll make our own rally on the tarmac. But I just can't imagine just how upsetting that was. But for everybody else and for them too, to even feel the power, I'm sure everybody's watching on their phones. That's the blessing of the phones, is that people could be there in spirit. But to be able to share that, it was just brought so much light. And I did share something else also. I think Darlene had sent me, I'm not sure, somebody who sent me that police officer security was asked, how was today? Because they had a permit for 60,000 people. That was the permit. And they had 290,000. That's a big change in plans. And the whole thing was put together in very short time anyway. And the police officer said he had more thank yous in one day than he had had in his whole career. The people expressing their appreciation. It was such a Kiddush Hashem, such a sanctification of God's name, the way the Jewish people behaved. And you could just see how the crowd was standing just in so much harmony. Like that alone should tell you which side is the right side. This versus that. It's like, which side do you want to be on? Just the optics of
Ellen,
it.
The world is seeing this. They're seeing it consistently through Israel's reaction to what's going on. They're going to come to that realization that, yeah, we need to be on the side. They will. It's just apparently it's not supposed to happen till Nisan, because that's the month of redemption.
But you can be ready early, just like you can early. You can be ready early. Nothing says that you have to wait candle lighting time. You can be ready early. So
you can, but it's just oh no, we've got to listen to all of this for the next few months. But patience is something that's not so easy to have when all this is going on.
Yes. So
how is your Just Peachy campaign?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your so it's really pitch in. Thank you very much for your contributions. We're moving forward. And as I explained, and then we'll stop, is that one of the big challenge, is because of the Oslo Accords, the Palestinian Authority was given vehicles that are bulletproof and that are equipped to be able to mow down like entry gates, supposedly for policing their own people, but they can be used against us as well. And then Israel had to also promise that the communities, the security forces in the communities would not be given any weapons that could be effective against those vehicles. So it's a very difficult situation. So I'm not on the security team because my approach for the security team is a little bit more like Home Alone, of like what my plans are, of like what I think would work. But I don't know what the plans are. The soldiers are always practicing out here and doing things. They warn us so that we don't get scared because they're out there doing things, getting more and more familiar with the neighborhood, and they have a plan. But I am going to ask the mayor and say, can you just tell me there is a plan? I don't have to know what it is, but can you just tell me that there is a plan? So all of the equipment that we're getting is to do the best we can. But mostly we are hoping and praying, because the main thing is, especially the people in Jericho and some of the surrounding areas, that they stay calm and don't decide that they want to jump in the fray here. So what Israel is doing in Gaza is not only effective for Gaza, it is a deterrent for other people as well. And we know deterrence does not mean prevention. It just means deterrence. And at this point, that's where we're at, is deterrence. So Hashem should bring us success. It's amazing. And I hope that you've seen and you understand and know and are not reading the mainstream press or listening to what people are saying about Israel attacking the hospitals, that Israel's working with the hospitals, with the medical staff. They brought in incubators. They're transporting the babies. They brought in fuel. Hamas would not let them use any fuel that they had. They are working with them, moving them aside so that they're not in the fighting. And I have a whole video you can see underneath the hospital where they were held hostages. You can see the chairs with the ropes where they were tied down, diapers and baby bottles where they had the babies. It's all right there. And with today's technology, you can see it in the comfort of your living room. So you just stay very aware of what the truth is out there. And really, God bless the Jewish people, as they are a light. Even in the darkness, they are a tremendous light. We are a tremendous light. So that's our job. That's our goal. And Hashem should just watch and see everything that we are doing and just bring us the Geula Shlema, the final complete redemption very, very soon. So have a wonderful Shabbos. Thank you so much for joining me. It was great to see you all, and look forward to seeing you next week.
We will.
Thank you, Ellen.
Israel.
Thank you.
Everything should go well for
Bye-bye.
Israel.
Thank you.
Thank you. May you get
Yes,
those
sure.
hostages soon.
Yes,
Thank you, Ellen.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
wa-
My pleasure.
Before everyone says bye-bye, can I add one more thing to that you said that it became barren after we left the Grar? Grar became barren after we left, right? We were kicked out.
Oh,
So I
no.
wanted to add something. Yeah, no? Is that not?
Are you talking
Like-
about Isaac, or are you talking about the
Yeah.
Jewish people now?
Yeah,
Isaac,
yeah.
yes.
Grar,
Yeah,
Grar.
when they kicked him out, their crops all failed and everything kind
Right.
of went belly.
So fast forward 2005, we had an amazing export of greenhouses, a huge economy, and we had the Palestinians working for the Jewish owners, and they learned everything. And one Palestinian said after we left that he knew exactly how to do everything. He worked with the boss for years, and they got along and everything. And the minute we left, the earth stopped producing. It's just not happening.
Not producing. It will not produce. And that's one of the prophecies it says in Tanakh, is like it will be barren. It waits for her children. It says it waits for her children. Nobody did anything with this land. Everybody who came here, Mark Twain, is like, ugh, what's anybody even doing here? It's God-forsaken. It's nothing. It's like the Jewish people, it is designed. The land of Israel was created for the Jewish people to live Torah and create a society that would be a model society for all of humanity, and other people are welcome to live here as long as they behave. And as they don't have special taxes if you're Muslim, you don't have to do anything. You can be or whatever you want to be, but you have to behave, and you have to accept that this is the Jewish homeland. And yes, it just
The blessings
fizzled.
disappeared.
The blessings disappear. That's right. If we're not here,
Right.
It goes away. It goes away.
Right. And it's amazing to read about Rehovot also in Beersheba, because of course I visited Beersheba many times, but also I lived in Rehovot in Machon Weizmann. So I never thought about the Rachav, expansive, and it's nice every year to be reminded.
And that's what we
that.
say about, we say Eretz Chemda Urechava, that the land of Israel is expansive. And he's like, what does that mean? People are like, it's so tiny. What do you mean it's expansive? It's like, it expands to hold the Jewish people who are here. It is productive. People look out our window because it's like total desert, and they're like, what's all that green down there? I'm like, those are date palm trees. Those are date palms, like growing sweet, many thousands and thousands of date palms.
Right. It's a miracle. Like in the Negev, also so salty. And when you go to the DNR, the development and research by our sister city, Ramat Negev, and you taste the tomatoes that are grown on air. I mean, my kids were little and they thought it's candy.
Yeah.
How
It's so
can it
sweet.
be from
How can it
salt?
be?
How?
Salt water. It's grown in. It's
So many
grown in
miracles.
brackish.
So many miracles.
I mean,
Yeah.
some of the things are a little weird too, because like they even grow fish, like for like non-kosher fish, like in fish ponds in the desert. And there's a winery in the Negev. Someone's like, what do you mean a winery in the Negev? It's like, oh no, they grow grapes there too. Like there's
vineyards. Oh, vineyards. And then the DNR also had maluach. Maluach means salty. There is this leaf that is very salty, and if you put it on fish, it's delicious, and they're exporting it too. When you can go to the Negev and everyone, and not only
some of those things were just destroyed on October 7th. The salad trail was destroyed. Those things they were.
Where you took us? You took us there.
Yeah.
It's all destroyed. That's where the kibbutzim were.
I don't know exactly, but someone told me that the salad trail was destroyed.
Wow, so because
Darlene, yes.
Oh, I just want to show you this big eggplant.
Oh yeah.
They needed volunteers to help pick some of the produce. So about 15 minutes from where I live, volunteers were picking, helping them to pick produce. So
Darlene, show the eggplant again. Steve just actually came here. He just wanted to see the big eggplant.
Wow.
That's almost like the spot. Remember?
I know what you were talking. It was amazing. I mean, and we had pomelos that were huge. And in fact, we just went to see our daughter today in Beitar. There's a rabbi there, and he took meiser and teruma from it. So now we can finally make something from this. But it's, it's pretty amazing. Anyway.
Where do you live, Darlene? Darlene, where do you live?
From Beit Shemesh.
Oh, where Rabbi Wasowski is with gears.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Say hi. He's amazing. We love him.
Yeah, I remember.
Are you in the same one? There's Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav.
I'm in Aleph.
And he's in Aleph too?
I'm not sure. I just know him via my grandson who was in his Viking program.
Oh, he's in the Viking, so he has the...
So it's just amazing to be able to see. There's so much bracha. There's so much blessing for everybody. And the Jewish people are not hoarders of blessing. We're just like, we want to share. We can talk about this another time, but it's part, unfortunately, of Islamic belief that sharing blessing is not what they're looking for. Traditional. I'm not sure if people are Reform Islamic. They can have maybe a different philosophy. But their belief system is that they're the final, that it was Jews, Christians, and then Islam. They're the final replacement. And they deserve all the blessing because they follow Muhammad. So they are entitled to all the blessing. And if we have some, it means we took it from them. So sharing it if someone took something from you, if someone stole something from you and then offered to share it with you, that would not do it. You would not be satisfied with that, but you took it from me. So when there's a feeling like, no, they're supposed to have it, and not only don't they have it, their countries are pathetic, as far as every measure of what you would call success in a civilization or society, they fail, then the Jewish people having it, whether they share it or not, is actually considered a shanda for them. It's an embarrassment, and it has to be changed. So it only can be if it has to be taken away. So sharing is like, well, we'll share it with you. It's like, no, that's not going to do it, because you're not supposed to have it because you're infidels. So if you're an infidel, you're not supposed to have it. So but the Jewish way is thinking like, well, but there's more for everybody. It's like, but there's more for everybody. It's like, no, you're not supposed to have it. So when you have that fundamental mismatch of philosophy, negotiation becomes very difficult. I would call it impossible, but it's definitely very difficult. If somebody comes up with a way of thinking, I don't know what it is, but they need to come up with something that gives them a graceful way out. So if anybody has a Quran and they can check the chapter and verse, there is chapter and verse in Quran that says something about Allah having designated the land of Israel for the Jewish people. So until Judgment Day. Now,
they said it yesterday, right?
Who?
At the march, at the
did they?
rally.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, so hold on.
The Christian guy said a lot of stuff from the. Oh no, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it was actually a Muslim person. Wow.
So what? I read another Muslim person who's saying that, well, we forfeited it because the Jews didn't follow God's law, and so we forfeited the land. And there's like this whole bizarre thing. So, but anyway, my like sliver of hope is that at least there is a verse there, along with, the Jews are hiding behind the bushes and kill them, kill them, kill them. There's also in the Quran. So maybe we could just get them to like revise and focus on a different verse, and that would give them a face-saving way to say that the land of Israel belongs to the Jewish people. So I don't know, look it up. I don't have a Quran handy, so I don't know, but I can tell you the sutra.
Let's find that verse. Let's find that verse. And
I
put
have
it
the
on
chapter. I have the chapter and verse. I'll find it
Oh,
for
you
you.
do?
Yeah.
I don't have a Muslim friend with the Quran, but the chap, yeah, I thought I just heard it. So maybe yesterday.
So maybe so. I didn't hear the whole thing. All right. So there's hope out there. And our biggest hope is the Torah says there's going to be V'chovot. There's going to be the third, and it will be the final. And the path there is just challenging. But we're here and we're hanging in there, and despair is not an option. And we're moving forward. And the Jewish people are so united and so much achdus. It is just incredible, and we should just keep it up and find more ways of generating even more than we have. Thank you for joining me. I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great Shabbos.
Yeah, I sent you an email. I don't know if you saw it. I cannot find it now, though. Did I not send it?
Thank you so much, Ellen. This was amazing. As always.
Thank
you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Take
Good
care.
to see you. Ellen, I sent you an email, but I don't see it now. So
You sent me an email telling me you had made a donation, and thank you so much, Gabi.